When I was a small boy, there was a dead-end street in my neighborhood. It was about 50 yards long, but the builder had big plans to extend it and build more homes. Yet in the meantime, he used that dead end to store construction supplies, piles of lumber, bales of shingles, loads of bricks, and so forth, which made it a popular place for all of the children of the neighborhood to gather and play. One day when we arrived, there were several piles of tar balls, thousands and thousands of sticky little tar balls, each about the size and shape of a good skipping rock, which I think the builder planned one day to steamroll into a new road. And to anyone else in the world, these were paving materials. But to little boys, this was ammo. We would cram our pockets with tar balls and hide behind bales of shingles and throw them at each other. One day, after one of those battles, I returned home oblivious to the fact that my pockets were still crammed with tar balls, and they went through the wash. And then they went through the dryer. And there in my mother's warm dryer, those little tar balls underwent a transformation. They melted. They not only ruined that entire load of laundry, they literally paved the inside of my mother's dryer. Till my dying day, I won't forget her forcing me bodily into the dryer with a hammer and a putty knife to get that stuff out. I have a question for you. What was it about my mother's dryer that caused the tar balls to melt? If you say heat, I say, wrong answer. We have some nice party gifts for you. It's a lifetime supply of press-on nails. Tell us about them, Johnny. It's not the heat. I'm going to prove it to you. Let's suppose that instead of heating some lumps of tar to 150 degrees for 1 hour, we instead took some lumps of clay, put them in a kiln, and heated them to 2,000 degrees for 8 hours. What would happen to them? They would harden. Don't ever allow yourself to believe that it is the heat applied to you by your job, by your boss, by your personal life that causes you to melt. Heat can never do that. The only thing heat can do is reveal the stuff of which you are made. And that's great news. Do you know why? Because unlike the lumps of tar and the lumps of clay, you and I as human beings have the high privilege and the incontrovertible right of choosing the stuff of which you are made. We do that every single day of our lives by exercising our right as people to choose our attitude. Let me tell you what I believe may be the most important question you ever answer in your lifetime. It is this: is the glass half full or half empty? Well, here's the answer. It's up to you. To me, that is the single most wonderful fact of this life, that no one on this planet but you can answer this question for you, and the way that you choose as an act of your will to answer it will determine more than almost any other factor in life how happy and successful you might become. It's the great equalizer of life. It would be horribly unfair if the factor that determined your satisfaction level in this life was your ability to think like Albert Einstein, or jump like Michael Jordan, or sing like Madonna. What happens if you come into the world jumping like Albert Einstein, singing like Michael Jordan, and thinking like Madonna? Would you be doomed to a miserable life? No, because you still get to answer this question for you, but listen carefully. It is the eternal law of life that if you choose to answer this question by saying, my glass is half empty, it will get emptier. The consequence of a negative attitude is that you will attract bad things and bad people to yourself. And over the course of your lifetime, you will slowly, almost imperceptibly, drain your glass to the dregs of all of the joy that you might otherwise have known. And you'll find a very troubling process at work in your soul. Your glass will grow smaller. Day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year, you will find yourself paying the compounded interest on a life lived with a sour, dour, negative outlook. But the converse is also true. If you choose each and every day to answer that question by saying, my glass is half full, it will get fuller. By virtue of a fabulous attitude, you will attract good things and good people to yourself. And over the course of your years, you will fill your glass to the rim with all of the joy this life can contain. And you'll find a wonderful process at work in your heart and mind. Your glass will grow larger. Okay, last time. This is your brain. This is your brain on a bad attitude, and this is your brain on a good one. A hand for my assistant, Laura Lanier. there was once a man and his 3-year-old son that were on an airplane together. It was the little boy's first flight, and as you can imagine, he was excited. In fact, he was so excited he was becoming disruptive to all of the other passengers. And so the father did what parents in that circumstance always do. He scrambled for a strategy to keep his little boy preoccupied. He turned to the back of the in-flight magazine, tore out that fold-out map of the world depicting all of the routes flown by that particular airline, and as best he could, tore it into 6 pieces along geographic lines, representing the 6 inhabited continents. He mixed them up on the boy's tray table and said, "Son, there's a puzzle. Put together the map of the world." He figured the kid might stay busy for 5 minutes, 10 if the man got really lucky. The man thumbed through his magazine for about 20 seconds, glanced down, and was astounded to see that his little boy had perfectly assembled the map of the world on his tray table. He couldn't believe it. He thought maybe the kid was a genius, a prodigy. He said, "Son, how in the world did you know where to put all of those pieces?" The kid said, "It was easy, Daddy. On the back of that page, there's a picture of a man's face. And so I just put the guy's head together and turned it over." He said, "Once I got my head in the right place, the world came out just fine."